I moved into my new apartment on the outskirts of the city last winter. It was old, but the price was a steal, and frankly, that's all that mattered to me. The landlord mentioned it had been vacant for almost 2 years, but I didn't press for details. Cheap rent in this economy. I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. The first night was dead silent. Almost too quiet, the kind of quiet where the walls feel like they're absorbing every single sound, creating this strange, heavy stillness. But on the second night, that silence was broken. I heard something. Strange, it was a faint whisper, so quiet at first I thought I was imagining it. It seemed to come from the wall right behind my bed's headboard. My first thought was, oh, neighbors. I rolled over and tried to ignore it. But the sound wasn't like a normal conversation. It was soft, slow, and had this weirdly rhythmic quality to it. It almost sounded like someone was praying, or maybe chanting, in a language I couldn't place. It was unsettling, but I eventually managed to drift off to sleep. The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. I walked over and knocked on my neighbor's door. An elderly woman with tired eyes opened it, just a crack. I asked her, as politely as I could, if she ever heard voices at night. The change in her expression was immediate. All the color drained from her face. She just looked at me, her eyes wide, and said, "There's no one living next door to you," before shutting the door in my face. Okay, that was weird. My heart started pounding a little faster. No one living next door, then where was the voice coming from? That night, I decided to take a more direct approach. I physically pushed my bed away from the wall, creating a gap of a few feet. I sat there in the dark, just listening, and then it came back. The whispering, only this time it was clearer, much clearer, and it wasn't chanting anymore. It was saying my name. Over and over, Kara, Kara. My entire body went rigid. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. My name is Kara. But how? No one knew me here. I'd just moved to the city. I hadn't even told my family my new address yet. There was absolutely no one who should have known my name. My hands were shaking, but I grabbed my phone. I had to get proof of this, to make sure I wasn't just losing my mind. I hit the record button and held my phone up, pointing it toward the wall. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, but there was only silence. Annoyed and a little scared, I stopped the recording and played it back. Nothing, just the faint, fuzzy hiss of static. But the exact moment I stopped the recording, the whisper started again, and this time it felt closer, much closer. It was as if the voice wasn't coming from the wall anymore, but from right inside the room with me. My blood ran cold. The next day I was a mess. I hadn't slept a wink. I couldn't focus. I knew I had to talk to someone who might have answers. So I sought out the building's caretaker. He was an older guy, seemed like he'd seen it all. When I brought up the voice in my apartment, for B, he got this really uncomfortable look on his face. He shifted his weight, avoided my eyes. Finally, he let out a long, heavy sigh. "You're in for B, right?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. He looked down at his shoes and mumbled, "The last tenant. Her name was Kara too. She just disappeared one day. Vanished. The police looked for her, but they never found a single trace." That was it. I was done. I didn't even wait for the sun to go down. I started packing my bags that very instant, throwing my things into boxes with frantic energy. But as I was about to leave, a morbid curiosity took hold of me. I had to know. I had to see what was behind that wall. I went back into the bedroom one last time. My eyes scanned the wall where the whispering had come from. And then I saw it, a small, loose section of wallpaper near the floor. My hands trembled as I reached out and peeled it back. Behind it was a small hole, maybe an old vent or something. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and peered inside. The narrow beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the dusty space between the walls. And that's when I saw the writing. Scrawled on the inner wall in what looked like a thick, black marker were 3 words. "Help me, he's still here." I gasped and dropped my phone, stumbling backward. The phone clattered to the floor, its light spinning wildly across the room. My heart was hammering against my ribs, so loud I could hear it in my ears, and in that chaotic moment, I felt it. A faint, cold breath, right behind my ear. I whipped around, but the room was empty. There was no one there. And then, the whisper came one last time, softer than ever before, almost a sigh, directly into my ear. "You shouldn't have looked."